everyone. This is the Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. Tyler and Caroline here with you. And Tyler, do we start with Canada qualifying for their first World Cup in 36 years, the Oscars, or the Battle of Alberta?
I have never slapped anyone, so I will keep myself out of the Oscars conversation. I was excited to see Canada qualify because, I believe that'd be the first time in my life, right? Because it's been 86 was the last time, right?
Yep, me too.
So first time in our lives where Canada's going to get a chance to play in the World Cup. And based on who they've beaten over this kind of run, you got to think they can maybe win a game in the World Cup too. Win one.
Guys, I'm calling it right now. I think that they're going to be a dark horse. And what people forget to remind themselves of is that Alphonso Davies, which is arguably the best left back in the entire world, who plays up top as a striker for Team Canada, missed the last few games. So in the World Cup, if they get a solid group and they play like they did against Jamaica, I think that they could surprise some people.
Good weekend for Canadian soccer fans. Bad weekend for Oilers fans.
So let's talk about it, because it was an abysmal, I feel like there's no other word, an abysmal loss in the Battle of Alberta, 9-5. Calgary fans chanting at some point, "We want 10." You were at the game, Tyler.
Oh, yes.
What was the experience like?
The Saddle Dome sucks. Their goal horn sucks. I could go an entire lifetime without ever hearing that again. The game was close for a while, I guess. It was an entertaining one. There was some scrums. You had a little bit of that, some animosity, but the Oilers just... That's the worst 5-on-5 game they've played in a long time. They gave up 9 even strength goals. That's terrible. It's so bad. And the easy thing, and I see a lot of people outside of Edmonton doing this, is they gave up 9. It's on Mikko and Mike.
Absolutely.
It's not. It's not on the goaltending. It's a comment about the Oilers maybe not having an elite goaltender, because I think if you had a bona fide number 1 star level goalie, you can have games like that and sometimes get away with it. But when you play that bad in front of average goaltending, that's the result. So the team in front of them had to be much better. I'm definitely not hanging that on Smith and Koskinen at all.
Yeah, you look at the numbers. Mikko Koskinen got pulled from net after letting in 5 goals on 12 shots. And then Smith, 4 goals on 22 shots. So I'm sure as an outsider, as an NHL fan, not necessarily an Oilers fan, you look at that and you're like, goaltending is a massive problem. But 2 guys who stood out for me in that game that maybe, to put it nicely, didn't have the best day. Evan Bouchard, just honest to God, looked like he was in over his head. And Darnell Nurse just simply struggled. And when you are considered to be our number 1 blue liner, that performance needs to be 100 times better from Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, when Darnell Nurse was on the ice, the Calgary Flames had 17 shots at 5-on-5. That's not number 1 defenseman stuff, and Nurse has been struggling for a while. I'm not sure what the solution there is. I don't think you can healthy scratch Darnell Nurse. I don't think that should be the conversation. I wouldn't even go as far as to healthy scratch a guy like Evan Bouchard, even though he looked bad. But I think with the addition of Kulak, and if you had a guy like Russell healthy, I think maybe you look at going to 7D again and trying to scale back some minutes here. It worked for the Oilers for a while. I get they have this newfound depth up front and 4 lines, and you want to be able to roll with that. But the scoring wasn't an issue there. I think you could go down to 11 forwards, because the benefit of going to 7 defensemen and taking away 3 minutes a game from Nurse, taking away 4 minutes a game from a guy like Bouchard, easing Cece's minutes a little, I think just bringing everyone down a notch in terms of their minutes would really, really help this team right now.
Here's the thing, Tyler, and Oilers Nation fans online, tell me if you agree. I think when your team scores 5 goals and Leon Draisaitl gets his 5th career hat trick, there's no way your team should lose that game, and the Oilers weren't even close to winning it. That is a bad picture for the Edmonton Oilers in that specific game against the Calgary Flames.
Yeah, the power play was great. The penalty kill was great. How many times do you score 3 times on the power play, have a perfect night on the PK, and lose? And that says a lot about just how bad their effort was at 5-on-5. They were bleeding grade A scoring chances left and right. The one area where maybe you think things could have broken a little bit differently, because, again, you can play bad and sneak out a result.
Yes, absolutely.
Edmonton didn't get that, obviously. Not even close. They did not sneak out the result. But they had that sort of 3-on-1 with Kane, Puljujarvi and McDavid, and Markstrom just made a 10-bell save, and that would have tied the game. And then play flips around, goes back the other way. Calgary scores. It completely deflates the Oilers, but that was the example. Calgary wasn't great defensively either. They gave up 5 goals in that hockey game, but they got a big save from Markstrom. It was a momentum turning point, and that's kind of the end of it. The Oilers didn't get that big save when they really needed it.
Here's the thing. I do not think by any means this is the end of the world for the Edmonton Oilers. I do think it's a nice little wake-up call. We were taking on a Calgary Flames team that is at the top of the division. I think that the Oilers just kind of deviated away from what they know and what they were doing so well. And now they have an opportunity tonight to take on literally the worst team in the league and get back to their form and shape and unit as a team offensively and defensively that we know that they can come out and win a game.
Yeah, we'll get to the opposition report in a second, but this Arizona team's not good. And I think you're right. It could maybe serve as a little bit of a wake-up call here for the Edmonton Oilers that, you know, you can't have games like that against the best teams. It shows them that, hey, if you want to win 2 rounds in the playoffs, you're eventually going to have to go through a team like Calgary, and it kind of shows the Oilers how much more they have to improve still.
Yeah. What's going on in your Twitch chat? Nothing in my chat right now.
Someone said, Nurse was playing way better before the big contract. And I think that's, you know, it's an interesting conversation to have about when the Oilers maybe gave Nurse that extension. It was off after a year where he had a massive heater. Maybe he's not that $9.25 million defenseman. I still kind of look at it like, yeah, I don't know if you wanted to run the risk of him having another great year. I don't know if you wanted to have him in playing a season with a UFA status sitting at the end there, because if he had another big year, he could have ran it to unrestricted free agency, so that's not great. Kylie says Leon put it on him. He scored 3 goals and still took the blame, and I mean, that was a big positive, is Leon Draisaitl, right? And his race for the Rocket Richard, 47 goals with 16 games left. Matthew says 48 with 17 games left. They're right there. It's going to be a fascinating race between these two, I think, but the fascinating part about those two as well is, you know, you have to have a level of consistency to score that many goals, but those two guys are just capable of going on those stupid runs where they get like 12 goals in 7 games, right? So the race between those two for the Rockets going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, I can't wait. And I mean, I'm not going to say anything about the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is an Oilers Nation show. Tyler, you ready to move on to the opposition report, or anything else you want to say about your experience in Calgary?
Oh, just the Saddle Dome sucks. They had a happy hour, though, before the game, which was great. That was a lot of fun. We definitely enjoyed that. But it was great. Everyone who came out to Calgary was a ton of fun. I think we ended up having like 38, 39 Oilers fans packed onto the bus, and the atmosphere at the game was good. It was great to meet up with people, Oilers fans from down south as well, who usually, you know, aren't around games here, and getting to chat with them. So it was a really cool night.
What did Bearded Brad do when Dry scored his hattie?
So Bearded Brad and I, in the hotel room before the game, we did a Neon Nation bomb as like good luck. If you don't know, Bearded Brad does a Neon Nation bomb after Leon Draisaitl scores. Every time after Leon Draisaitl scores, he does one. We did one before the game because we thought it'd be good luck for Leon, and it was. He got a hat trick.
All right, so that means you guys got to do it every time.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, we'll move on to our opposition report presented by the delicious Yag Burger. Obviously, the boys are on home ice tonight taking on the Arizona Coyotes, who are 20, 40, and 5. Like we mentioned, literally the worst team in the league. They are 4-5-1 in their last 10 games, and they are on a 5-game losing streak, most recently losing to the Jets last night in overtime. Tyler, we chalk it up to a bad loss against the Flames, but like we said, this is an opportunity for the boys to regroup, go back to what they know, and leave tonight with 2 points in the bag.
Yeah, you can't give up these 2 points. The Oilers have 16 games to go here in the regular season. You need at least 10 wins, I think, in those 16 still, if you want to come out and make the playoffs here, because 10 wins would put you at 97 points. That's very likely going to be the playoff cut line. You see LA's in action tonight as well, taking on the Seattle Kraken. There's some out-of-town scoreboard watching to do in this game. But 10 wins, you make your life a lot easier if you take care of business against the bad teams on your schedule. Tonight's one of those examples. You get Arizona. You could look even further down the stretch, and like early in April, they get Anaheim and San Jose in a week. They still have matchups coming up against a team like Columbus out east. They have another one against San Jose, a game against Vancouver to end the regular season. Like that right there, you have 6 games this year against weak opponents. If you take advantage of those games, you basically only have to play 500 or worse against the good teams, and you're going to find a way to get into the playoffs here. So you need to take advantage of these games. I'm looking for them to not just beat Arizona, but like firmly stomp on Arizona. Arizona played last night. They gave up. Yes, they brought Winnipeg to overtime. That's great. Good for them. But they gave up 40 shots, 73 shot attempts in that game. Arizona got worked by the Jets. Edmonton should just be licking their chops right now as a chance to just blow out a bad team and get your confidence back.
Because we want to control our density, right?
Density, yes.
Density. All right, let's move on to the lines for the Arizona Coyotes. Who do they got?
Well, the interesting part here to start is that they're actually going to be going with Karel Vejmelka again between the pipes. And this is a guy who has actually had a pretty solid year for the Arizona Coyotes. He's earned a nice contract extension for them. And he stopped 38 of 40 against the Winnipeg Jets last night. But going to a goalie the second for 2 straight nights, Calgary Flames did it with Markstrom, and it didn't actually go very well for them either. So Vejmelka getting the start tonight in Edmonton, that is certainly surprising. The rest of this Coyotes lineup, the top line, you got Clayton Keller with Alex Galchenyuk and Nick Schmaltz. Nick Schmaltz picked up an assist in the game last night. The second line is Travis Boyd with Lawson Krause and Phil Kessel. Barrett Hayton with Matthias Michelli and Michael Carsoni. Jay Beagle with Louis Eriksson and Nick Ritchie on the D. You have Shane Gostisbehere with the former Oil King, Dyson Mayo. Cam Dineen with Anton Strawman. Kyle Capobianco with, that is a name I've not read before, Vladislav Kalyakonak, I think is how we're going with that one.
I wouldn't even try to.
I don't think I got that right. But again, some no names here on this Arizona team. Yeah. They're not that good.
Just for reference, Clayton Keller leading this team with 62 points as well. Okay, how about for the Edmonton Oilers? Any changes in their lines since the Battle of Alberta?
Well, we'll see. I mean, we didn't really get a full skate. There was an optional skate the other day for the Oilers, so not 100% sure if we're getting anything in terms of the line changes. I know there was the blender was kind of out the other day for the Oilers, but this is what we're at least expecting. McDavid with Kane and Puljujarvi. Draisaitl with Hyman and Yamamoto. So a bit of a different start than the beginning of the Calgary game. Nuge with Brassard. And it looks like it may be Archibald drawing back in. This courtesy of Daily Faceoff. So it looks like it could be Archibald with RNH and Brassard. So a bit of an interesting change there. And then McLeod with Fogle and Ryan. It sounds like Zach Kassian could be a healthy scratch in this hockey game. Nurse with Ceci. Keith with Bouchard. Kulak with Barry. Mikko Koskinen expected to get the start. The interesting notes there, one, healthy scratching Zach Kassian is interesting. I thought he played some pretty good hockey since coming back from injury, but obviously Dave Tippett didn't like something in the last game there and wants to give this team a bit of a different look. I don't know if I love breaking up the third line. I still thought RNH, Brassard, and Puljujarvi were good, and they scored early. Like, I maybe would have given that trio a bit more time to gel before going to the blender. And keeping the D pairings the same is actually interesting to me as well. Like, it clearly didn't work against Calgary, but there was some reporting down from the rink today that they really worked on D-zone coverage, how to move the puck out in transition, and they're trying to iron out the wrinkles in their game. So maybe they're hoping that just some practice time allows these guys to find a better level, but I don't know if I love the idea of going with the same 6D in the same pairings.
All right, good stuff, Tyler. Right now, everyone in my chat, go Oilers, go. Oilers are going to slap the Coyotes, like a reference that we know about happened last night, which we won't necessarily go into. As you guys all know, what happened at the Oscars. But anything else? Everyone's giving Leon some love.
Yeah, as they should.
Imagine Leon comes out with that would be considered back-to-back caddies. Yeah.
For the other thing, too, which is interesting, I'd love to get people's take on this. The idea to go back to Mikko Koskinen tonight. I mean, he didn't, again, like the group in front of the Oilers is mainly, or in front of the goalies, is mainly to blame for that. But Mikko also at the same time, like, 5 goals on 12 shots. He only made 7 saves in that game. To me, this is another sign that Jay Woodcroft, and I know I accidentally said Dave Tippett a couple of minutes ago, so just completely ignore that. This is another sign that Jay Woodcroft, he views Mikko as the number one. Because if this was truly just an up for debate competition and it was a, 2 guys who were splitting the workload, I think you would have gone back to Mike Smith tonight. But I think Jay Woodcroft values getting Mikko's confidence back. I don't mind that decision.
I'm 100% with you. We talk about the blue line not doing their job, really, to put it nicely, against the Flames. Mikko didn't have his best performance if you look at the numbers, but if you want to maintain Mikko's confidence and establish that confidence as a starting goaltender, Jay Woodcroft, I think, is making the right decision putting Mikko in between the pipes tonight.
Yeah, like I don't hate the decision at all. And Bruce says in the chat here, not Mikko's fault. And yeah, I don't think very many of those were Mikko's fault. But still, when you look at his sort of recent game logs here, 5 goals against Detroit, 3 against Jersey, 4 against Dallas, 5 against Calgary. Like, it hasn't been a great run here for Mikko Koskinen. But again, I don't hate the decision because this is a guy who gave you some good starts for a couple of months there. And if he's confident and if he's going and he's got that sort of swagger we saw from him over the last kind of 6 to 8 weeks before this recent stretch, then I think you want to try to get that back before the postseason.
All right, bet of the game presented by PointsBet. I just want to throw out there that I feel like Leon's going to do something tonight because he is 1 goal behind Austin Matthews, and I feel like there's this healthy competition, maybe unhealthy competition between these two, and I think that he's going to try and do everything he can to get above Austin Matthews right now.
We'll get to that in a sec. The Oilers' big favorites, minus 425. That's not even worth betting on. Neither is the Oilers in regulation at minus 221. The puck line's even only minus 160. If you want any sort of positive value on the Oilers, you got to take the minus 2.5 goals, which is plus 125. You mentioned Draisaitl. He's minus 152 to score. Again, like, that's a tough bet. You're not getting very much profit out of that, but you could take Draisaitl to score and the Oilers to win at minus 115.
Okay.
So, a little parlay action there. Or Draisaitl at 2+ goals is plus 320. So that's a pretty good payout as well. McDavid plus 450 to score 2 goals tonight. He's minus 117. I like McDavid to score tonight. He's still putting up a ton of points, but he hasn't scored in 4 straight games. So I think McDavid will be hungry to try bounce out of that. And the bet I've been loving as of late, and I know Bag Milk has as well, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins over 2.5 shots. They've changed the payout. It's minus 139, but this guy is hitting this incredibly consistently for the Oilers. So I like Nugent-Hopkins to go over 2.5 shots. And because it's pretty much free money at this point, Connor McDavid over 1.5 at minus 120. That's where I'm going on PointsBet.
Awesome stuff. All right, Tyler. Over under on you saying Dave Tippett again instead of Jay Woodcroft.
I would love to know how many times I said it actually.
You said it once and it wasn't even a big deal, everyone.
Well, the Twitch chat, they're on me for it. But I saved it. I went back to Woodcroft.
You did it on purpose, guys. We do things for views.
Yeah.
We're trying to go viral
it was
here.
clickbait.
Yeah, it was clickbait. Exactly. Anything going on in your chat worthy of talking about?
Genesis says Leo Hattie ×2. Mike Yegg says he likes the Draisaitl shot prop, which is usually set up around 3.5, paying plus 120. The only thing that worries me with that is Draisaitl isn't a big volume shooter. When that line is set at 3.5, which is what you need to get a positive payout on that, he's hit it in 3 of his last 5. So it's not the worst bet. Like, he does hit it, fairly consistently, but it's not quite a lock like the Nugent-Hopkins guys. We got another one here. RNH, let's go, bud. Yeah, I mean, Nuge was one of the few Oilers in that game against Calgary who had a plus rating. Like, he's come back. That pass to Draisaitl was beautiful. He found the back of the net as well. He was gone for a month, and maybe not. It's not like you forgot him, but the Oilers were playing well without him in the lineup, and you're kind of like, hey, that's a good sign. He's come back, and it really shows that Nuge's presence brings this team to another level. He helps so much on the power play. He gives them that third line that can produce offense. The other thing I wanted to mention from last game, the Derek Brassard-Selly. This guy's in my good books because he had the whole drop to one knee. He was fired up when he opened the scoring in his first battle of Alberta, so that was great to see as well.
Also, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins rescues dogs, so he's always a winner in my books. He can do no wrong.
Kylie dropped off one of the dog calendars at our office, so now we have a dog calendar up as well.
Yay,
speaking of
I
that,
love that. All right, guys, nation citizens, I know it's spring and I know it's snowing outside, but the one ray of sunshine coming into our day is the fact that the Oilers take on the Arizona Coyotes tonight and hopefully walk away with 2 points. Like I said, Arizona Coyotes on a 5-game losing streak, so the Oilers got to get the job done.
Giddy
tonight.
up.
Yeah, literally giddy up.
Giddy up.
All right, guys, this has been your Giant pregame show presented by Sherwood Ford. We'll see you next game day.